I think oftentimes when we talk about women in terms of relationships or marriage, we talk about sex, we talk about their womb, we talk about, all of that stuff. But I'm still such a firm believer, like, when you're that man who's looking for a wife, you look for the intangibles. Because when you're looking at the beauty, when you're looking at sex, when you're looking at all of this stuff, that's plentiful, right? Even your average guy, if you just kind of adjust what it is that you're looking for, that's plentiful. But femininity is not one broad stroke. It doesn't look one way. But when you find that femininity that fits into your vision of now and the future, I think that's really when women thrive in terms of what they offer in a relationship. That level of like inspiration in the way that you define it, that level of support in the way that you define it, that level of respect in the way that you define it. So to sit there and talk about, like, sometimes we have these conversations very like from a macro level, as if everybody's looking for the same thing. But how many times have we been on this panel and AP and Marcus and Trigger Mike will say the same thing, but when you ask them to define it, the definitions start to look a little bit different, right? What a woman offers can only ever be valuable if it aligns with what the man is looking for. And that's the honest truth,
And
right?
that's per person. That's not going to be a one size fits all. It is per. I mean, look at everybody's wife. If you put a lot of guys, you put their wives, they're going to all be different wives, but it's perfect for that guy. So, is there really a right answer for that?
Mm-mm.
So, and I think what the game is saying, because I don't think it's the question of what do you like. I don't think he's really asking like uh how do you word it, what can you do, or how can you like I don't like the way he worded it. I think it was more of a general thing saying, hey ladies, wake up. A man that already has a car, a man that already has a house, a man that already has a job, a man that can provide all of these things for himself, you have to be something that is other than a headache, a burden, or a leech.
Well, I have a
And I
question.
think that's more context of what he was saying. I think it was more of a, hey, y'all need to wake up, because you're saying that that men, what does a man bring to the table? We have all of this stuff. We're going to bring you into our
Women
world and
have it.
take it off of your table. So what you can't be is loud, obnoxious, and always with your hand out. You can't be that. What else can you do? What benefit can you provide a man that can get everything that he wants without you? What benefit do you provide
Well,
him?
again, it goes back to what Inaz was saying and what I had
No,
said.
I
Is
agreed with Inaz actually.
right. It's going to be up to each individual person because the game is probably going to be looking for something that's totally different than what you might be looking for, AP. So a particular girl who may show up and do the things that she would think that he would like, that may not be a benefit to him because that's not what he wants. But that same girl could do that same thing for you and that be in alignment with what you want and what you need. And then that ends up being the mate that you value. So it all depends on what he specifically values in a woman to provide.
And I would argue quickly because I know what AP is trying to say. I think that what's going on here is men like a just like women like a group of guys. I mean, what I say? I just like women like a group of guys, men like a group of women who they feel are these beautiful and they want them to change. Everybody wants the other person to change, but there's this great big group of people overlooked that are just what you want them to be, but they may not be packaged the way that you want them to be packaged. I think both men and women have a problem with doing that.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you don't. She's not a dime, but she's that everything you want in a mate. Maybe he's not, 6 figures, 6, 6, 6, and 6, whatever it is. but he could be everything you want to make. And I think that that's where the issue comes. We want it from the wrong people, and those people are just not willing to change to make it happen for you. And it's just like a cry, like, what are you doing this? And you're overlooking the people who can do everything for you. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, I really think he was speaking generally to
The
especially to
women
these
he
women
comes
that
across.
complain. Uh, I don't think I don't think that's necessarily it. I think the women that we all see on Instagram and the women that we all see on a lot of these TikTok videos, um, they all have very similar characteristics, and most of them aren't characteristics that a man wants.
But why are
Like
you looking at them? There are few people. Those are few women. Why are we looking at the Instagram to be the
those
behavior?
are the examples that we have. I mean,
So
right? Like,
I think it's again, like it's tough when you're talking about men who live in that reality, right? When it comes to celebrities, because what's the common talking point? I can go, purchase all of the things that women say they bring to the table, right? When you do the mathematics, the majority of men cannot, right? Like when you calculate the housekeeper, the personal chef, the personal assistant, all of this stuff, most men can't actually purchase those things. But when you have a man that does, I think that's really where like the conversation of femininity really comes in, is when you strip away like the traditional gender roles. What does femininity look like, right? Because he has multiple personal assistants. He has multiple housekeepers for all of his properties. He has somebody who's taking care of this. He has women taking care of his sex drive. He has people who are personal chefs. Like there's literally nothing that a woman perform that he can't purchase. So I think him asking that question, even though most men can't have the conversation from that vantage point, I think is still really interesting, because then we have to dissect femininity in a very different way.
so what are you guys calling the common man? Because I would consider myself very common, and I actually had, up until not too long ago, had somebody who actually did my meal prep for me. I actually had a person come in 3 times a week to clean the house for me. I have my own car, I have my own job, and I can leave and do whatever the hell I want to do whenever I wanted to do it. Is that not common? That seems to be like, and it wasn't very expensive. So I don't quite understand where, like, I'm obviously not the Game or Jay Z or Will Smith or any of these other guys that make millions of dollars a year. So wouldn't I be common?
What's the average income? You're on mute, mistaken.
I was going to say the fact that you were able to afford to pay somebody to do meal prep, you say it don't cost that much based on what you make. But if you're looking at the average salary, which we were just talking about this not too long ago, average man, black men, I'm gonna say, well, what did we look up? It was like $41,000, somewhere around that. Yeah, $42,000 a year. They're not going to be meal prepping, purchasing, being able to afford, especially depending on where they live, to pay to have somebody to meal prep. So an average dude having a woman that will be able to provide that for him, then that becomes value. He would value a woman who would be able to do that for him. For you, that may not necessarily be that much of value because you're able to afford to pay somebody to do that for you. You understand what I'm saying?
So so are you, this is gonna, again, I don't see myself as above anybody, right? I see myself as just like everybody else.
The AP. Now
And
you know better. You know that people do. And the average man does not have enough money to have a person come in and meal prep for them. Also, pay somebody to come in every week to clean up behind them. Come on,
uh,
the AP.
if you budget, if you And, and maybe that's the problem. Like I don't know who like the guys y'all are running into, but that's everybody I know.
We didn't say that, guys.
Because you're
We're
gonna
talking
run
about
in
the
the same
average
circle.
common person.
You're gonna run in the same circle based on where you're living, your class, like all of those things. You're gonna run into the same people. So yes, to you that is the norm, but your circle is small when you're looking at the bigger picture on a macro level. Most people are not doing that.
And even if they did, they probably don't even want to put that in there, but they just rather do it themselves. So, I mean,
But
that's just how it.
so even if they're doing it themselves, right? Like that, like why would you need a? Do you necessarily need a female to come in and do it for
Well,
you
you
when
don't.
you can do
Why?
all of this
Here's why.
yourself?
So that's the
Yeah.
argument. Go ahead, Enos.
So here's why, right? When we talk about men, their careers, and their purpose, there's a level of focus that goes into that. There's a level of energy that goes into it. When you are performing those tasks yourself, for a woman to come in and take that off of your plate, you now have so much more time and energy to concentrate on the thing that is going to propel you forward versus diluting it into the things that make your everyday go, right? Like there's value in delegating that, right? If you've ever been in any sort of management position, you understand that delegation is the most powerful tool in terms of efficiency and in terms of coming across goals, right? You have
Absolutely.
to delegate so you can concentrate the maximum amount of energy into the right parts. So when you're talking about why would it be of value for a woman to come in if you're already doing it yourself? Well, guess what? Now you can put in those extra hours at work. Now you can focus uninterrupted on that project that you're working on or that certification that you're working on. Now you can go out and network with people because you have that availability, right? So like this is that and we look at the whole realm of domestic duties as if like it doesn't really have value to people who are already performing it without understanding what it means. So like let me give an example. I heard the story, I don't know if it's true, about Mark Zuckerberg. He has a handful of options in terms of what he wears on a regular basis. And he does that to specifically increase his decisional capacity. And I think as people, when you're not functioning at that level of like elitism, we forget what our decisional capacity looks like and we start making decisions that are against our best interest, right? That is what a woman offers when she takes those things off of your plate when you're the one doing it yourself. But if you are in a financial situation to already delegate that to somebody else, now she has to offer something else to bring value into your life because you've already delegated those tasks to position yourself in a very different way.
And let me
So
just ask this
go
question
ahead.
real fast to the AP, and then we're gonna move on to the next one because we can't stay on here too long. Since you have these things, what do you look for in a mate? What is it
What
that
did
you
I?
want in a mate?
For me, it was actually all about not being out in the streets. It was pretty simple.
So the only thing I know
Like
she had to offer you more than just
You did all
not
that
being
just
in the
to say
street.
that?
like I mean like
So sex and not being out in the street.
not being like that was the reason for being out in the streets. Hey, boo, what's going on? Hey, what you doing? Bam, and it is what it is, and you get on with your life.
But
I
it had
wanted
to be
something. I wanted something different.
right. What was the substance that she provided that made you say, you know what, she's the one. This is who I want to be with
What did she
outside of
bring to
all of
your
the other.
table?
Right.
So now we're getting specific to me.
For sure, because we're trying to figure you out.
No, that's fine. I like the dialogue. I like the conversation that we have.
Connection.
Um, I like that I don't have to always be the one to push her to do what she is supposed to do, and not for me, but for herself. Like I like she's driven very differently, and it doesn't. She's going to be driven whether it's me or not me, and I love that. Um, It's the thoughtfulness. Like if you looked at my refrigerator right now, I have sandwich meat, right? Like, I don't and like if she would, without me asking, if she thought of it, she'd bring over spaghetti, right? Like that's just something that she would do to make sure that I wasn't just eating a sandwich. Like she take care of all of that for me now. But prior to that, she didn't. But she took the initiative and did it. I
So
didn't have to say I didn't have to say anything. I didn't have to give a lot of direction. And with my retirement plan, she's able to follow my retirement plan on what I want to do and what my plan is, and she's on board with it, and it's all dope to me. And I don't have to worry about her.